Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Fall Up Bar for the very last time here for the PDC Premier League of Darts. 16 weeks of league action are in the books, and we now know our final four heading to the O2 for finals night next week. Good evening here in the UK or whatever time it is you're watching or listening back. South Jack Garwood, joined by Mr. Cam McFarlane once again for the very last time for this campaign. How are we doing, buddy?
Good, mate. Good. Have we finally confirmed that we're not doing one after the final then?
Yeah, because that's our.
We weren't sure last week.
I made the decision.
Oh my word! Who put you in charge?
No one, but if I don't, nobody will. So I was like, nope.
Fair enough. Okay, so yeah, the last one of the year, and
well, the last one of the Premier League. It's not the last one of the year. We've got 6 majors to come yet.
I'm talking about the Premier League. Stop being a finicky little fool.
Big word for you at 10 to 11.
Here we go. Anyway, yeah, the last Premier League Fallout Bar of the year. Happy? Is that okay?
Thank God.
Anyway, so yeah, the last one of the year. Week 1 feels a long time ago. That was me and you as well, wasn't it? Week 1, and it feels a long time ago right now.
Yeah, I mean, our background, if you are watching this rather than listening back, is Week 1, Match 1, Dimitri van den Berg against Johnny Clayton. That went...
Barrett.
Yeah, that match went in favour of the Dreammaker. Who would have thought? The fortunes would have...
Oh, it's a lovely little segue there. I like that.
A lot between then and now, as Clayton was the man to book his spot in the Final Four. Spoiler alert, we're going to talk about that very, very shortly. Not in the fashion that he would have looked at heading into tonight, though. And Dimitri van den Berg becoming the 7th winner of a night in the Premier League campaign this year. This time last year, Michael Smith won on the final night to complete a clean sweep of all 8 players. However, this time just 7 were successful in winning a night of Premier League darts. Dimitri van den Berg, the last, meaning Peter Wright, was the only one to not pick up a league win.
Surprising, really, because especially after the weekend, you'd have thought if one of the two was going to become the 7th winner of a night, you'd have probably fancied Snakey a little bit because he looked good at the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, look, the new darts about, but it was a tough little run that Snakey found himself in. I mean, I'll flash this one up on screen. It might cover us a little bit to start with. But there is your night 16 winner, Dimitri van den Berg. A 6-4 winner.
It's fitting on the final week. It throws the word bye in there.
A bye over Michael van Gerwen and a 6-5 win over Gerwin Price. Another nice little niche thing for you. That's the first time in this campaign he's beaten all 3 of them.
Well, technically he didn't, but...
Well, yeah, that's the first. But he hadn't beaten any of those 3 before tonight in 15 weeks of trying. Well, yeah. He beaten everybody else in the Premier League at least once.
It's the first...
Anybody else in the field.
Is it not the... Also, the first time he's won 2 matches in a night. He's not made a final, has he, before tonight?
Yeah, he was runner-up week 3.
Oh, yeah, that's how long this has gone on for. Can't remember that early back. Jesus.
He beat Peter Wright, Nathan Aspinall, and then lost to Michael Smith. The pattern continues.
Yeah.
Right, let's look at some of tonight's darts then. We'll start at the start as always. A quick hello to everybody in the chat room though. Bob's in. HJV says Dimmy special show. I like that word in very much.
Someone get us a Malibu and orange.
Hopefully MVG doesn't have a bad shoulder injury and can play next week, but good idea for him to not play unless at the weekend. Yes, we will talk about that because not only is he due to be playing in the front Leicester this weekend, there is a big exhibition tomorrow night at the Morningside Arena. That's part of the reason why it exists, where he was due to be playing as well. I haven't heard anything about his appearance there.
So not just that though. Next week. Next week is my point here right now. What happens if you can't play next week? Does 5th get in, or does someone get a bye in the semi-finals?
The semi-finals are already decided as well. I think it will be a bye in the semi-finals.
So someone would literally go straight into the finals. Well, well, we know who. Where's he finished? What's the table at? So who would get by? He'll have Gezi? No. Hang on. Pull the table up. What's the
fifth comes in?
Oh, does it? Oh.
A straight swap for Van Gerwen or would move up? A straight swap for Van Gerwen.
Well,
so Nathan Aspinall would still get his shot at finals night. And somehow, despite it not being possible this week, for Nathan Aspinall and Johnny Clayton to be finals night ever present, should Van Gerwen not recover from his injury in time for next week,
they'll both get in.
Nathan Aspinall would be at finals night.
But in what position?
He would direct swap for Van Gerwen.
So he wouldn't come in as fourth.
He wouldn't come in as fourth and move Johnny up. He would have a shot at Michael Smith.
Come in at third and play Michael Smith.
Yes. Let's continue saying hello to people. Then we'll look at the darts. Then we'll get onto the big talking points as they work themselves out. Jack says, good evening, buddy. Matthew says, for the last night, there's a lot of talking points. Indeed. Joe says, evening, guys. How we doing, buddy? Bob with Dimmy won his semi-final against MVG Force on a walkover. That's a big question. Like I just said, he had a big so far. Lee says, up the sheep. Wednesday sheep? No, they're the Owls.
The what?
Sheffield Wednesday have just overturned a 4-0 deficit to win.
I mean, they do. In Yorkshire, they do bother the sheep as well. I've upset people already. Here we go.
And Owls says, playoffs couldn't be any harder to predict. Price being the man to beat, but dropped off slightly. Smith being on form, but when missing tonight, unsure of going injury. Clayton shows up or doesn't. I think
that basically summarised it perfectly there.
Yep, pretty accurate. But we're going to sit and talk about it for the next half an hour minimum. Starting with game number one, like you said, Peter Wright looked brilliant with those darts of the weekend, and there were moments I thought in this match where he looked solid. But actually, the more and more you look at this on paper. 87 average,
that's
2 on the outer ring.
Yeah,
it wasn't as good as perhaps I felt it was while I was watching.
Yeah, that's a bad average. That to say that he only missed 4 darts a double. It's not like he's stunk the place out on the outer ring and that's why his average has dropped. That's basically it. It's a pretty true average. That's what he's thrown there, isn't it? But what we've seen once again, like we see every single week in the Premier League. Gerwyn Price in the first game of the night is just a different man to anyone else on planet darts right now. That first game, he just comes in, and to be honest, this, as ridiculous as it sounds, bearing in mind that he's 162 and averaged 103, isn't one of his better first game of the night performances. But again, still just levels above his opponent, smokes that first game of the night, and just doesn't give the other guy a chance.
Correct. Overall, for Peter Wright, the only player to not win a night in this campaign. Look, this has never been his tournament.
He doesn't like the Premier League.
Because the Premier League, more than any other tournament in the world, is about consistency. And that man chops and changes and has less consistency. He can rock up and he can focus his mind for a week to rock up and win a match play.
Win a world.
Was one of the most dominant performances in one of the hardest to win tournaments in the world. He was that good. His 2 world championships at one time, it was untouchable, right? He could focus his mind for those short periods of time. But for 16 weeks, he just doesn't have that attention span in him, I don't think.
No, I don't think he does. And like you say, there's clearly a lot going on. The action's not quite right. The darts, taking so long to get used to them. It's improving. And certainly the last couple of weeks, we've definitely seen an improvement. But to do it consistently over 16 weeks, I don't think this is ever going to be his tournament. It just doesn't suit him at all.
Not sure he'll get another chance if he keeps dropping.
Oh no, he'll be in next year, 100%.
Depends on the format. Another big talking point.
Well, that's a big talking point as well. But regardless of the format, he will be in.
I don't think he will. Where's he dropping?
Don't stop the party. It doesn't matter. Don't stop the party.
He hasn't done. He's done it twice all season.
No, but what I mean is it's the walk on, it's the entrance, it's him, it's selling loads of those stupid Mohican wigs that don't look anything like his head, which annoys me every time. They look like a parrot. They don't look anything like his head. every week, based on the colour that he's having, just sell Mohicans in that colour. Like, it's not that difficult. Like, are they that bad at marketing that they can't think that that's a good idea?
No comment. Provisionally, would you like to know where Peter Wright is this time next year? At the start of next year?
As in, based on he doesn't defend anything.
Tour card race, based on if he doesn't defend anything, yeah, as is the tour card race. Provisional first rounder majors might be attached on there.
11.
11. That's not a Premier League man for a player.
I actually now finally look like I actually know what I'm talking about on this show, because that was a flat out just guess based off the top of my head on what I knew, and I got
when you get away with it, you're not supposed to admit it's a guess.
No, but it was a calculated guess based on what I knew, and I've actually got it spot on, which I don't usually. You know what you're talking about, and I just sit here and upset some people and create opinions.
That makes it change for me to that on a Monday. Right, we do need to move on. Considering the circumstances heading into this game, one of the performances of the tournament so far from Nathan Aspinall, a 6-1 demolition of Johnny Clayton. Johnny only had 2 darts at a double, averaging 93 in this match. Scoring was a little bit off, I felt, from the ferret. And by the way, one of those darts at a double was to take out a 160 checkout. Nathan Aspinall is a man possessed in this game. However, as it looks out, and you look at the difference between Aspinall in this game and the game to come in the semi-final, this was his free roll, and the next one was where the pressure really hit. It was, because if he loses it, he was never any better. Like, he had to win it, but if not, he's beaten.
No. The pressure was on. No, I'm not having that. I'm not having that at all.
Look at the way he is on stage for both games.
No, I get that, but the pressure was on just as much in this game, because if he doesn't win this game, he doesn't get the chance of the other one.
But he came out knowing that it's him versus Johnny, laser focus, beamed in, right, just pump around the stage, and it worked, right? But you could tell that actually...
But it's so hard to keep that up for 2 games.
Think about it before that semi-final against Gerwyn Price. He's overthought that, and he's realised what's got to go on, and he's got to go and put in a performance against a player who is playing better than Johnny Clayton. And I think he got to him. We'll talk about that one a little bit more.
Yeah, I know. I disagree with you there. I think the adrenaline that he had for this game and the fight and knowing he's up for it, it's a one-on-one scrap to give myself still a chance. I think there's as much pressure in this game as there is in the next one. If anything more, because Johnny's someone he probably should be when he's playing at his best. A lot of people will probably disagree here, but Nathan Aspinall's a better dart player than Johnny Clayton. When he plays his best level is better than Johnny's best level. And I don't think that's anywhere in question. People might disagree, but I genuinely think when he's at his best, he has a level that Johnny can't get to. So he should beat Johnny Clayton in this game when it matters. The next game is more of a free run, because right now, who expects him to beat Gerwyn Price? Nobody.
The expectation of everybody else doesn't matter at that point. It is the pressure on Aspinall, knowing that he is 6 legs away from returning to finals. It's not about what everyone else perceives at that point. It's about how close Nathan Aspinall is to getting over the finishing line. When he's got issues with his throat, it's not a free roll at that point. It is actually, I've got to do. Do you know what that was, right? You know, in tennis or in snooker or wherever, where you pull off a massive comeback, right? Say.
And you get back level, and then...
you start realising it's possible. Yeah. That semi-final against Gerwyn Price was the realisation it was possible.
I get that. And the Brooks Koepka, the Masters, where he led the first 3 rounds and realised it was possible to be the first live player to win a major. I get it. But I think the bigger issue is being on second in the night, then having a hour and a bit gap until you then play again. The adrenaline to get through that first game, because I think he's approached that first game like it's a final and it's everything that matters. To then, an hour later, try and get yourself back up to that level, bearing in mind what the first was taken out of you, and then you've had that rest period away from all of that. I think that's the bigger issue, rather than him sort of struggling with the pressure. I think it's hard to get yourself up for that second game when you've got to do exactly the same again.
I see your point, but Gerwyn Price had a longer wait.
But it didn't matter to him.
Finishing top mattered.
Not as much as getting it. Like Michael Smith said all season, he would have happily every week just won his first game, and not won anything else, and that would get you in if you won your first game every week.
Well, we'll talk about that shortly in a minute as well, because I've been doing some number crunching in comparison to last year, and I think you'll be a little bit surprised at what I found. Match number 3 was Dimitri Vandenberg's first win of the campaign over Michael Smith, 100 average for Dimmy, 6 from 14 on the outer checkout. The story here, though, Michael Smith finishing just 4 from 16 on the outer ring. Everything else pretty level in that regard. Probably not too worried about Bully Boy. This week was all about going through the motions. There was an outside chance at sneaking top spot. The minute Price won his first game, it would have meant he'd have to lose his second to either Clayton or Aspinall, etc. Pressure off at that point. Turn up, take the check, go back home, go through the motion. Pro Tour this weekend. Keep your arm in. Get yourself ready for the O2.
Yeah, absolutely. Bully couldn't give a toss about whether he finished top or not. And he's I know he talked up a little bit last week because he had that little joke with Gezi that before the final that Gezi had said he thought he'd wrapped up top spot at that point, and Gezi had miscalculated, and Smith was like, "Oh, I can still do it." But he didn't give a toss, did he? He literally he
completely carefree up there. It wasn't just that. He still averaged 95. He's 4 from 16, but I guess we've seen this in the past when results are securing the Grand Slam, etc. It's not a lack of caring. It is a lack of concentration because the result doesn't have as big a consequence. There is absolutely no professional sportsman that goes out there to lose. Let's put that out straight away, just in case anyone.
No, absolutely. No, I'm not. And I'm certainly.
But when the result matters less to them, the focus and the intensity is a little bit different.
Yeah, inevitably, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm absolutely 100% not saying that Michael Smith didn't go up there to win this, because Michael Smith wants to win every single game he plays. But the fact that it didn't really matter, he was confirmed in the top 4, and he couldn't care less who he plays next week. Like, he 100% in his head believes that regardless of who he rocks up against at the O2, he's going to smoke them anyway, and he's going to go and win the lot. And I think because that didn't really matter tonight, we maybe didn't see his best, but for him, that works sometimes, to be fair, when he's not, when he does relax a little bit, and he usually actually plays some of his best stuff. But I thought Damien played really well here, and I think let's not take that away. I think it's probably his best performance of the season.
Close to it. It can't be too far away in terms of
not even numbers wise, but just in terms of what he did
against one of the top 3. Yeah, that was the first time he'd beaten any of them. Vandenberg into the semi-finals. Final game of the quarterfinals, not the ton-topping average that we're used to seeing from Chris Dobie. He struggled a little bit here, just 3 from 15 on the outer ring, 20%. A little bit of a falter for him to finish his campaign that perhaps hasn't delivered the points tally that it deserves, because the performances have been far, far better than some of the players in the field that have finished higher than him. Van Gerwen, 98 average, looking pretty comfortable. To be honest, he was unplayable for the early parts of this game. He just wasn't missing. But there is that moment where he threw a dart for single one. He's dragged it into the 18, and that looks to be the dart that has caused the injury. He did battle through. Dobie picks up a couple of legs, just keeps going. You can clearly see Van Gerwen wincing at the moment of release. Spent some time with some physio after the match. Looks like a muscle strain or tear or something along those lines.
I feel like more than a strain.
I think the way he's wincing on every dart, and the way that I'm being told things from the venue, is that the pain is on the release, right? If he was in pain wandering around or having it in different positions, you could suggest perhaps nerve or whatever else. But the fact it is at that certain point, that is where the muscle is stretched or straining. And that makes me suggest muscle. So it's either shoulder, cuff, or top of the bicep or something. But
he has got quite a shouldery throw as well.
Release,
because that's it. Generally, with that sort of thing, if it was release, like with Nathan when he had to hit the timeout, that's usually wrist or elbow. But like I say, it looks higher up. It looks like it was, and it looks like it was I've just seen the message in the background there as well. Okay, so it's not a tear. Yeah, it's not a tear, which is good. Certainly, it's less time out, but
early diagnosis on site is that it's
a pull is less time out, but it still makes you worry for next week because a pull generally wouldn't be ready again by next week. Although, if it's finals night, he just dosing himself up with painkillers or an injection in it and can get through it. I mean, he was still good enough to win tonight, even though he was clearly in pain. I know Dobie didn't play his best, and honestly,
released, etc. And actually, when it comes to finals night, it may be one of those situations
adrenaline.
Where he does try and battle himself through. The difference between a semi-final and runner-up is massive in terms of prize money.
I don't think he cares about the money one bit in this. No, he wants to win. Like if he battles through it, because he wants to win the tournament.
And he will have sponsors and management that will be invested in that sort of.
But we know what he's like. He will want to win, and that's why he will try and battle through it. Like, little shout out for Chris Dobie here. I think there was a lot of talk at the start about whether he should be in, whether it was the right thing to give him the spot after Masters, whether other people should have been in it ahead of him. And it would be very easy to look at the table and go, actually, no, probably shouldn't have been. But he's been really good in this tournament, and he deserves a lot of credit. He's played really well. He's won a night. I mean, every time he's played well, he's lost. This is probably the first time in the entire 16 weeks where he's got the result he deserved, because he's not really played that well tonight and he's got beat. But the rest of the time, he's probably deserved more than he's got, and his points total does not reflect in any way how good he's been in this Premier League. And if you stuck him in again next year, I don't think he'd be out of place, and I think he does even better.
In a bigger format, I'm not against his inclusion unless he does more throughout.
It depends what happens this year, obviously, as well. But
fair play to look. There are plenty that I myself believe was for Chris Dobie. It was a good run at the Masters, but I wasn't sure if he had the mental ability to go and deal with a 16-week campaign such as the Premier League when he isn't favourite, when he isn't going to go and pick up as many results. So that the performances have been better than I expected from him. We know he's got this kind of level in him, but actually to go and produce that against the big boys week in, week out is perhaps something we haven't seen as frequently. We've seen him produce 104 averages for fun on the Pro Tour in the last 18 months and find ways to lose those matches. But he's not one that I'm now worried about that actually this campaign will ruin Chris Dobie. It wasn't too early for him. He's been in, he's competed, he's not got the points that he perhaps deserved, as you said. It shades of Ibrex, Sulovic, Klaassen in the years that they've been included in the last decade, where they've gone in, they've performed well. I think Kim Ibrex averaged 97 for a campaign and picked up 2 wins or something. Like it was incredibly harsh on him for the way that he played.
Love me some Kim Ibrex as well.
A good campaign for Chris Dobie. Obviously, this one goes down with a little bit of a falter. Nearly fights back after that Van Gogh overstretch, but not to be potentially an inclusion next year. That'll be a topic we talk about.
We'll see. There'll be a lot of
the season. I'm not getting into next year's already. This one's not even over, and I still
like you say, format, everything. There's so many permutations. We're not going into that right now.
First up, we'll go first semi-final. I mean, we have touched on this a little bit already, and the second one, to be fair. Was that Gerwyn Price victory over Nathan Aspinall? We both gave our thoughts on the waiting time, the way that Nathan approached this one. There is one more talking point in this one that I have to get in before we go on. The whistling.
Yeah.
Every time Aspinall had 2 darts.
Well, it happened in the first game as well.
Double in, whistle, and it's not a dig at the Aberdeen crowd. It's just a dig at crowds in general. And I put something on social media earlier, and look, we're at the point where, do I think the PDC will do anything? No, because it's still a product. There was a comment about potentially self-policing it. And actually, if you are approaching an individual on one of these nights out that is under the influence whatever that may well be, telling them to stop
not.
whistling. I'm not.
No.
I'm 6'1" and 23 stone, and even I would feel uncomfortable doing that to a lot of
It's
people.
not. That's not the point. The point. That's not the
What
point.
needs
The
to
point
happen
is,
now? Back in
I
the
have
ticket,
spent a lot
no
of time at
football
these.
shirts, no whistling. You
Yeah.
find someone, you hear them whistle, they're gone.
Yeah, the point of self-policing is
the
not
minute
seeing.
that you see that happening, and you see it less and less whistling on TV, or actually even for a couple of weeks, you work with a production team, and the minute somebody does whistle, you get a camera on them and you show security escorting them out.
Yeah, but
get them gone.
Like,
get it public knowledge that if you whistle, you will be escorted out the building.
Yeah, and I get that, but there's two issues. That the first issue is the self-policing. Absolutely not. Do not get involved. I've been at many a Premier League event, and there's a reason I don't go to the Manchester event anymore, because it's the worst atmosphere I've ever been in my life for fighting and it kicking off. Whereas I've been to pretty much every other event on the calendar in terms of the Premier League and never seen anything like it. Manchester, as much as I love my city, I think it's one of the best cities in the world. The Premier League crowd at Manchester is disgusting a lot of the time, and I will call that out, and that is what it is. So certainly don't try and self-police it, because it's going to be a fight, and whether you're hard, whether you're not hard, whether you can handle a scrap, it's just not worth it. One lucky punch and you might never go on. It's stupid. So certainly not that. But also it's the same thing with the thing of putting them on the telly and then getting security to set them out. It's just going to cause. Bear in mind that most of them are in the table of 6, 8, however many people that are there together. You go and try and remove that one person, and the group of mates who are as much bellends as they are probably going to try and fight the security, and then it's just going to turn into chaos. That's not, and that's why they will never do it, because it's too risky. There's too much of a risk for everyone involved there. That's, bear in mind, the security are not being paid well enough to be going there and trying to drag people out, a group of 8 people on their own, to try and deal with that. So
I think there has to be some middle ground with it, though. Warning system, do that again, you're gone. Polite. There are ways to police crowds, and these guys are far better trained at it than we are. But there has to be some consequence now for whistling, and these people need to be gone. An example needs to be made, because that's the only way that other people learn. Let's be honest, the Euro Tour crowds have learned from other places. They've picked it up. It's acceptable. We can get away with this. We carried on. Even Blackpool has got to that level now. That was always
the darts fans tournament,
it's the mecca of darts. It's where darts is still sacred. It's gone.
Do you know how to police it? And there's only one way to police it. And going back to self-policing it, at that point where it's happening, Nathan Aspinall puts his darts down and walks off stage, and says, "I'm not throwing a dart when that's happening." That is the only way to actually do it properly, where it's actually impacted on the product and the thing, and saying, "I'm not playing in those conditions," because trying to self-police it or trying to get security to do it, not going to work. If anything, trying to throw someone out creates more of an atmosphere and more stupid stuff than anything else. But if he puts his darts down and walks off and says, "I'm not playing,"
the minute they pick them back up,
yeah, it will be worse. But if he refuses to come back on stage and says, "I'm not playing under those conditions," yes, it's not good for the PDC. It's an awful look, and the nightly tournament is sort of done with if he refuses to come back out. But I like that. Fine with that. But yeah, if he doesn't come back out and literally just forfeits the night and goes, "I'm not playing under those conditions," or if anything, because I mean, Nathan's probably the nicest guy up there. If it's happening to Johnny when Johnny's throwing, or it's happening to Gezi when Gezi's throwing, and Nathan goes, "I'm walking off with you," and says, "We're not carrying on this night if this is happening," that sends a message and sends a statement. And then next week, I guarantee you it will not happen. Because people want to see the action. If they're not going to see the action because of the crowd, then it's not going to happen.
That's where I think you're wrong.
No, it wouldn't happen.
I genuinely don't believe enough people in that venue at any time during a Premier League campaign want to see the darts.
Well, true, but if there's been 3 nights in a row, no, it needs to be there. Though. You need 180s. You need some form of action. They wouldn't all just sit in the MEN
just turn up for
with nothing happening.
No, but at the same time, there's still enough that will go, actually, I'm just going to... Like, there's always one dickhead that thinks it's funny to take that joke to the next level.
Well, there's more than that. I think there's more than one dickhead. There's fucking loads of them, but it's a good job it's late, this show, isn't it?
What's your language, by the way? Yeah. Right, let's move on anyway. We've done the crowd debate. We'll no doubt pick this up on Monday night.
So, anyway, back to the game. Gezi again, second game of the night. Yes, he's won, but nowhere near the level of game one again, which we've seen from him relentlessly over the last 7-8 weeks when he's been the best player in darts. But there's a dip from game 1 to game 2 to game 3 every single week.
This one, I think he got caught up in the whistling.
Yeah, no, I'll give him that. But it's still a solid performance.
This is an extremely difficult match to play as well. Like, he's got to go out there and be professional. On one hand, Gerwyn Price's performance massively affects Johnny Clayton.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that just because of their friendship, but actually, in terms of you cannot look at this match one match going, oh, Gezi should just let him win. Nathan needs the point. Because it's over the 16 weeks. You have to play this match as if you're playing it week 1 as a second.
Of course, and you will do, and he will.
That's the context. That's the mentality you've got to go into it. I think the whistling and the Aspinall got to Gezi a little bit, and there was a little bit of empathy there, going, actually, this isn't right. So when he's throwing for doubles as well, he's a little bit like, well, now there's a talking point other than how well I play. And I think there's always that, like, the fact that this could have been a good game, should have been a good game, and we should now be talking about the fact that Aspinall's ran it close, finishing perhaps from both wasn't quite there. It got a little bit tense, it got a little bit edgy, and we talk about the difference between Aspinall between game 1 and game 2. Instead, we're talking about the whistling, and there's that little bit of sheepishness from Gezi for winning the game.
Yeah.
Johnny, no doubt, is feeling similar, because his performance in the first game just wasn't good enough. Nathan was far the better player. He watched it go out, and
but he could have guaranteed him. Yeah, like you say,
will be relieved.
Could have guaranteed it.
But actually, seeing that transpire, his World Cup teammate getting a result for him, fine. In a crowd situation where actually they just didn't allow Nathan to play, is a completely different emotion and feeling. And I know all the players have to deal with it, but actually, there will be that empathy there. I don't think these guys are good enough to feel that.
Of course, and to be honest, like you say, like you were saying, like, well, you got to play this game like it's any other game. I don't think you do as Gezi. I actually think, like, if I was playing, I don't know, Jarlath at darts, I mean, it wouldn't be a question because I'd definitely win because he's probably the worst dart player I've ever seen.
For a man who loves sport as much as our mate Jar does, he's crap at
darts. But bear in mind, so if I was playing Jarlath at darts and if I beat him, it meant that you would go through to the finals. Of course, I'm going to have that extra little edge because I want you to go through to the finals, whether I am or not. Like, you're going to have that extra edge because you want your mate to go through and go as far as he can. So I think this probably was quite big for Gezi and that he had a little extra edge in it because, of course, he wants his mate to go through and he wants his mate to get as far as he can. Like, and I do think it probably is a different game to if he played this game 3 weeks ago when it didn't matter because Gezi probably has got an extra edge that he don't need to win. It makes no difference to him really. He's already wrapped up top spot, but he wants his mate at finals day as well.
Well, he does and he doesn't because now they have to play each other, which is also that extra thing to consider. But
I think he fancies he's got the edge on that as well, though.
Given this campaign, 100%, I agree.
Yeah.
Second semi-final, this is the moment that Van Gerwen did choose to withdraw on the night. He went to the bull-off, intending to play.
Did he win the bull-off?
He won the bull-off, and within the next 2 minutes, as the players were approaching the walk-on, Van Gerwen decided that his arm could not compete for the rest of the game, opted to withdraw. We believe he will now rest it up for the weekend, so do not expect to see him at the Pro Tours this weekend at the Morningside Arena in Leicester. Right decision, especially with a muscle strain, pull, tear,
100%.
whatever it may be.
Why risk it tonight?
Rest on it, and he needs to rest on it for 3 or 4 days, and he needs to be throwing lightly by Tuesday, as intense as possibly can by Wednesday, maybe.
Do you think so? Do you think he needs to even throw before Thursday?
I think he needs an hour on the board Tuesday.
I don't think so.
Just to build that back up again. 4 days off is a long time for these guys.
It is, but his action is so sort of natural and repeatable that if he didn't play for a month, he'd still pick the dart up and throw it the way he does. And I actually think give it as long as possible. Like he needs to have he needs to do maybe an hour on Thursday before, like early on in the day, not like just before they play, and see how it is. But I genuinely think before that point, give it as long as possible because his action's that good, he'll be fine.
The issue with that is I don't know how early he has to make the call regarding not playing on Thursday.
Right.
How Aspinall playing.
Well, I assume the PDC will have Nathan
the Premier League semi-final going. This is what you could have had, and then Van Gogh rocks up and plays the game.
No, I mean, I assume they will have to be smart and have Nathan there and some money in his pocket in case he doesn't have to play. But thanks for coming.
Expenses will no doubt be covered next week.
Oh, more than that.
Prize money would be interesting though, because the difference between finishing 5th and a semi-finalist is an extra 10 grand. Should that replacement happen, does Van Gogh then technically finish 4th?
Well,
turning up and just getting going in the semi-final an extra 10 grand?
Technically, he finishes 5th if he doesn't play, doesn't he?
10 grand difference between that.
I'll be honest, I'm sure Nathan will split it with him if it comes down to it. Like, we'll go halves, mate, but I'm playing.
Yeah, we'll wait and see on that one. Usually at this point as well, or at some point up until this moment, we would have brought you at least one interview clip so far. The second one is reserved for our nightly winner. Now, at this point, we intended to talk to whichever player of Aspinall and Clayton made it through to finals night. However, given his loss early on and the fact he just did not want to see the outcome, regardless of which way it went, Johnny Clayton left the building.
Oh, did he actually?
Get a chance. Yeah, he didn't. He wasn't in the building to see it happen. He
didn't watch it.
No, he was long gone.
Wow.
Yeah, he was long gone. Get me out of that atmosphere. I'll go and catch up.
I thought he was the man whistling. I thought he was the man whistling.
No, travelling to hotel, get some rest before a trip to Leicester this weekend, etc.
Yeah.
Where are we tomorrow night? So we do only have one post-match interview for you guys. It will be available in full on our YouTube channel. You can go ahead and check that out once this podcast is over. This Fallout bar is done for you guys. As we do talk about the final game of the evening, now that was Dimitri Vandenberg's 6-5 victory over Gerwyn Price. The story of this one, perhaps, again, a little bit of a drop-off from Gerwyn Price, but the fact there were 5 consecutive breaks of throw to start this match pretty much summed it up.
Yeah. There's a lot of smarter and more sort of stats savvy people in our chat than probably me and you sometimes. How many times over the last 6 or 7 weeks has Gerwyn Price averaged less and then less and then less in the 3 games, even where he's made the final? Because I feel like it's every week that he's done 3 games, he's averaged less every time. And is that a little bit of a worry for him? As good as he's been, and that he's been quite clearly and comfortably probably the best player in darts form-wise, is it a worry that he keeps getting worse as the day goes along?
I think it depends how high he starts. No, night 13, he averaged 110 in the first round, 89 in the semi-final, and 100 in the final. It went back up.
Okay.
Last week,
not every week, but
first round. Night 14 lost first round. Night 15, he started at 111, then dropped to 104, then played 91 in the final.
Yeah, exactly. So down again.
Rotterdam.
Or anywhere.
102, 188.
Yep.
Brighton, 115, 108, 100.
See, I'm looking like I actually know what I'm talking about again here, but it happens a lot. And yes, okay, a lot of those are still incredible.
94, 86, 114 in the
final.
Yeah,
that final was unbelievable. But for the most part, it is following a pattern. And
Nottingham, he got better every game.
I mean,
97, 100.94, 101.04. That was the night Chris Derby was in trouble at 3-0 up against Michael Smith.
That's correct. You did not get better every game in Nottingham. You got worse.
So did the prices of the beer.
No, they said the same, mate.
Didn't feel like it.
Your reaction changed, but the prices remained the same.
More and more like Brad every time. How much?
How much? Ah, Yorkshire. Speaking of Yorkshire, cricket starts on Saturday. Have a little follow down below.
We're not at that point yet. Rothenberg picking up his first nightly win. I thought he was brilliant in this final. I thought he held himself together really, really well, considering he's a Premier League player who has had an incredibly tough campaign compared to where he was. Got in last year on the back of possibly the fact he is
better at dancing than everyone else.
More marketable than some of the players in contention at the same time, because his form at the back end of last year perhaps wasn't as good as some of those in contention. Did pick up back-to-back World Series events last year, and I think that does get forgotten a little bit.
Yeah.
They are effectively Premier League nights, that final day, so that's easy to overlook. Struggled a little bit with rhythm, I think, in this one, given that he's played quite methodically over the past 18 months, and that was a big criticism of his game from the fans' point of view. He's being booed a little bit from everybody watching from the outside, that he was becoming more and more difficult to watch. So he seems to have changed that a little bit, sped up. But actually, the thing I'm leading into right here is he can't hit tops to save his life.
He hates it. He always has.
He despises it, but he can't get anywhere near it.
No, but he literally went through a phase of deliberately not leaving it. Like, if he had 52 left, he would literally go treble 12 instead of the single.
No, it's 20 for double 16, but same thing.
He would. I've definitely seen him go. I've definitely seen him go treble 12.
The legs he lost tonight, it felt like they were all because he'd missed darts at top. There was one where he left 59, obviously forced himself to go at it. Another for 60, 20 tops.
59 is easy. Like 59, you just go treble 7, double 19. Like, that's the way I always go.
His first leg was one on double 19 tonight, and Wayne Marder was joking, going, "How can you be more comfortable on double 19 than you are on double 20? It just doesn't make sense." You're 3 foot tall. There's a difference. He's a professional dart player of considerable height.
No need for that at all.
It's true though.
Factually accurate, but no need.
The camera's not actually pointing up at an angle. You're just that short.
No, it is. I'm on the iPad tonight. That's why we've got me chins. Right.
Look, Dimitri Vandenberg picking up his win. Gerwyn Price.
I mean, fair play to him.
What that does mean
tonight, like, because it's tough if you go through the full 16 weeks and you come out of it without even winning a night. You're gonna get some stick for it and some pelters for it, and shouldn't have been in there. And a lot of us thought he shouldn't have been, but regardless of that, he was in there. And I actually think it's a lot of pressure to go and win that final night when you've not had a win. When it doesn't matter for the table or whether you're still in it, but to come out of it with something, at least on that last night, I actually think he deserves a lot of credit, to be fair. And I thought it was solid. And to lose the 2 legs from 5-3 to go back level, and then to pull it out again against the throw in the decider, actually, fair play to him. And I actually think deserves this night, and he's not had a good campaign, but it's a strong finishing point for him, and it's at least something. He's won something to take him into the rest of the year and say, actually, you know what, I can beat these lot.
Yeah, and I think that was quite big for Dimitri Vandenberg. He does become the 7th player to win, and obviously that was a big talking point at the start of the campaign. How many of the players would pick up nightly wins? That means Peter Wright, as we said, was the only player to not pick one up. Finishes 6th in the table, 2 points clear of Chris Dobie, 7 clear of Peter Wright in the end for Dimitri Vandenberg. Let's then hear from Dimitri van den Berg before we discuss some wider points and then look ahead to next week's finals night.
But the crowd got on his back and he just showed his class again. It was 5-3 down, came back to 5-5. He should have won in the end. In the very end, he should have won. He missed. I had a chance and I took it, and I was like, oh my days, what's happening? Like, I've managed to win a Premier League night, and I know it took all the way to the last 16, like the 16th night. But Dimi is a winner. I am a winner.
What's that period like in between you beating Michael Smith and knowing that you're in the final? Because obviously Michael got injured. I'm guessing you could see that in the practice room. You then bull up as well, thinking you're playing, and then...
I lost the ball. I lost the ball against Van Gerwen. Don't forget that. I also lost the ball because even though Michael was having some troubles with himself, we bulled up and he straight away hit bullseye as well, and he even won the ball. And I'm like, all right, you've got to go up there and on the stage you've got to do the business. That's what I was thinking. Very simple. And then all of a sudden I got told just before we had to go up, Michael has to pull out. The injury is just too much, and he's not feeling that he's going to push himself. So yeah, fair play to him. That's professionalism. Very simple. I understand it. But yeah, that puts me into a position. It's my second final. I had to win my first game to get into this position. So it's not that I just got granted it. I still had to beat the world champ. I still had to beat Michael Smith, who has won 3 nights in a row. So it's not that I just got it easy. So yeah, just make sure that you focused on the positives, just like I am. And all of a sudden, Dimitri van den Berg has got his first W. And you know what? Get in, booyah!
Booyah, indeed, for Dimitri van den Berg. Never a dull moment when Dimi talks to us on camera. But as I said, he was our winner on night 7. A few points in the chat room going back to Van Gerwen. El says, even if he can play next week, not practicing won't be good for him. Bob says, MVG should throw his left arm to help his shoulder pain. I'm not quite sure he's Ronnie O'Sullivan.
He'd still be better than us lot, though.
MDA getting for Armageddon tomorrow night. Yeah, MDA Modus joint exhibition at the Morningside tomorrow evening. I believe replacements are being discussed.
Roll Fallon now.
Already there?
Oh, is it?
Yes. I believe so.
The Godfather. Get the Godfather out. Go on.
What? I'm already there, mate. I've got a camera in my hand. Don't you worry. Me and Barzy are not replacing MVG. Let's put it that way. Els also says stats point towards Smith beating Price in the final. That'd be interesting. Bob says, will there be pressure on Gezi next week? It's going to be his first time ever making it to playoffs night. We'll discuss that shortly. Craig is in the building. Hi, guys. Just back in guest house after Aberdeen event. Dimmy was so happy winning it. Craig was there covering it for Saltire Sports Radio in Scotland. Hope you had a good night, buddy. And Els says at least Davey makes playoffs if 3 of the top 4. I absolutely love that logic. Now, before we do
that Peter Wright hoping that there's some massive outbreak of something that if all 4 pull out, he still makes it as well.
Before we do look at
by the way, just to drop a little sports thing on here as well. The Tour de what's it called? The Giro d'Italia at the moment. People pulling out with COVID, still having to pull out of the race because of COVID. Like, that's off now, isn't it? Like,
fresh air next to nobody.
But yeah,
the World Health
Organization positive.
Even decided that it's no longer a threat.
Literally, the World Health Organization said the pandemic is over. Like, but yeah, if you test positive at the Giro, you have to pull out. Mental.
Italians. Before we look ahead to next week's final, this is the 3rd time I said that line. The fucking button again. Let's talk. I want to compare Premier League weekly regular season campaigns. If Gerwyn Price had won tonight, he would have broken the points record in this format. He also would have taken the outright record for wins in a campaign. However, by not winning the final tonight, he finishes a point short of where Johnny Clayton did last year, finishing on 39. Clayton's amassed 40 points. Clayton also picked up 4 nightly wins last year. Price and Michael Smith achieving that feat this year. The gap to the field from Johnny Clayton was 9 points. to Michael Van Gerwen last year. This year, just 6 between Gerwyn Price and Michael Smith. The gap between 4th and 5th was they finished level this year. Last year, it was 2 points by virtue of that Joe Cullen victory over right. I got a little bit of trivia for you, though, Cam, because I bet you don't remember who it was. Johnny Clayton, Michael Van Gerwen, Joe Cullen were 3 of last year's finalists. Who was the 4th?
I don't remember who it is. Really? You've got me there. I had something lined up that I was going to say to you when you started talking about Gerwyn Price having the chance to win the points record and wrap everything up tonight like he could have done. I was going to say, well, at least he still won the league, unlike Liverpool when they had that chance last year. Completely wasn't thinking about you asking me about who were the top 4 last year.
Oh, good, because now we're going to talk about playoffs that your team have just bottled. So, ha!
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, shots fired.
No.
Anyone in the chat room know who the 4th semi-finalist was last year?
It's almost like we planned this. I pretend I don't know so that we can get the chat room involved.
Something like that. Do you know what? I'd forgotten this as well, and I'm quite happy it was.
Hang on. So, who did he play in the semi-final?
Van Gerwen.
I've gone here completely.
HJV's got it. James Wade made the semi-finals last year.
Yes, it was. Of course, it was. Yes.
The 4 to not make finals night last year. Peter Wright, Michael Smith, Gerwyn Price, Gary Anderson.
Yeah, the late replacement.
Gary's 1 win last year coming in Nottingham. I was there. Right, let's look ahead
to... Are you from Nottingham, are you? You should just mention it again.
All I've done is moan about the beer prices. You were noshing off Manchester earlier. Don't give me that.
No, I wasn't. I said it was the worst crowd of all the venues.
You said it was one of the best cities in the world. It's not even the best city in its county, mate. But let's move on to next week so I can go to bed.
Hang on, sorry. Where are you going as a better city in? Well, technically it's not in Lancashire anymore. It's Greater Manchester. But if you go in Lancashire, where's the better city?
I don't know. I'm just making that up. Cheshire.
Preston. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, that's where Freddie Flintoff's from.
Yeah.
What a guy. Right, the semi-finals next week. As it stands, a race to 10 legs in the semi-finals. The final will be first to 11, best of 21 at the O2 in London. Semi-final number 1 will be that all-Welsh battle between Gerwyn Price and Johnny Clayton, the 2 World Cup teammates, former World Cup champions, who will be in a team together in just a few weeks, by the way. The Premier League, the World Cup is
at the worst named tournament in darts right now.
My Diesel claim World Cup of Darts. These 2 will be seeded, by the way, as one of the 4 pairs to make it through to the next round automatically as well.
Top 4 or top 8?
Top 4.
Top 4, yeah.
But score predictions in the chat room, folks, for this semi-final. Gerwyn Price against Johnny Clayton. Johnny Clayton making it through tonight by virtue of a favour from his World Cup teammate. Will that backfire on Gerwyn Price next week? What do we all think?
Not for me. Yeah, I think basically what Gerwyn Price has done is given himself a game against the person he thinks can be easier than Nathan Aspinall, because I just don't think Johnny's playing well enough, especially not first game of the night, as we've just been discussing how good he is first game of the night, Gerwyn Price. I don't think Johnny gets near him in this, and I think this one is over relatively quickly, and Johnny gets 4 legs. 10-4. 10-4. I think this is a walkover almost. And that's not... I'm not trying to slight on Johnny there. I'm not trying to have a go or anything like that, but I don't think he's playing well enough to handle Gerwyn Price right now.
I don't think he's playing consistently well enough. I still think the moments we've seen Johnny be brilliant, he's got enough there.
Yeah, but he can't leave 1-2-1 every leg.
No, he can't, but there will be breaks in between legs. This is whatever, not going to go up and play all 19. And if he can roll off a couple of mini sessions or stay close 3-2 and pinch a couple of legs, just get Gezi thinking about it in his first Premier League finals in which he's dominated the league format and will not picking up that title the way he's playing in a minute, constantly being referred to as the best player on planet darts right now, despite the fact Michael Smith's won 3 of the last 5 weeks. Lunacy, by the way. Yeah. That will all of those things can and in the past have affected Gerwyn Price, and whilst he looks a lot more mature in his thoughts right now and in his thought processes, there was still that little bit of the old Gezi right at the end tonight where he lost it with the crowd a bit, and he's wearing a blue shirt to try and get him onside. They booed a little bit at the start of the walk on, but then they've got onside, etc. But there was a lot of whistling, and he gave it.
But they only got
it up at 5 apiece. And do you know what? When he missed darts at double 12 to win the match, as he was sat there, when my girlfriend does watch darts, I was like, watch this. He just banged in a 180, I think it was. I was like, he'll miss 3 at this now, and he'll blame the crowd for whistling. And in a minute, he'll win the match.
But the point is, as much as he had the crowd on side a little bit earlier on, that's only because the Scots hate the English more than anyone else, and they're more friendly to the Welsh than the English because they're not the ones on the other side.
He got booed more than Aspinall did in the semi, which was interesting because I would have thought exactly the same process as you.
Yeah, but nobody whistled when he was throwing against Aspinall.
They did. So Aspinall had it for like the first 7 or 8 legs, and then it's almost as if the guy that was whistling had some sort of bet on it. It was like exact legs or 180.
Well, that is the thing most of the time.
So he gets into a position where Price is miles ahead. And then he starts going after Price if he needs Aspinall to win a couple of legs.
Hang on. I've just figured out how to fix it. When we're talking about policing it and whatever, just have a blanket ban on anyone that buys a ticket for the darts, automatically get the betting account shut down. And then no one will whistle when people are throwing.
Maybe. We'll see. But having partnered bookmakers probably will disagree on site, but you never know. We'll come back to that. Anyway, score predictions from the chat room for this first game. Craig says 10-8 to Price. Matthew says exactly the same scoreline. El says 10-7 Price. Bob says Gezi 10-6. He's also.
I'm assuming we've got no Johnny shouts in the chat. No.
I'm going to do it then. I'm going to say Johnny wins it.
Oh really?
10-7.
That 10-7 as well. That's bold.
Yeah, I think if it gets close and edgy, then Gezi just has that roar, doesn't he, of inevitability? Let's not forget how comfortably Joe Cullen beat Johnny last year from 4.
Yeah.
Being top, I think it comes with an added level of pressure heading into next week.
I'm not sure top.
Not massive amount.
Not to Gezi.
Being that number 1.
Yeah,
there's a little bit more of a target on your back and expectation to at least get through that semi-final.
I don't think for me, it's not that. I do think there is an added pressure for Gezi next week, but I think that's the pressure he puts on himself less than finishing top. I think it's the fact that he knows this has been not the tournament for him, and he wants to send a statement and be that guy that now goes and wins it when everyone says it's not his tournament. I actually don't think finishing top really matters whatsoever and doesn't put any more pressure on him. I think he himself puts more pressure on himself and will do. And that's my only concern. But if he does lose, which he absolutely could do, Johnny could play well and he could beat him, I would not have it any further than 10-9 Johnny, though. I genuinely don't think there's a gap if Johnny wins it.
I think there has to be if he wins it, because if it gets close and edgy, I'm not convinced that he can get over the line against Gezi in that situation.
But what if he leaves 1-2-1 in the decider?
If he does, he takes it. Put your house on it.
There you go. It's just a fact. It's a fact of life. Johnny Clayton taking 1-2-1, death, taxis, it'll rain in Manchester. That's basically facts of life.
At least one of my 3 cricket days this year is being rained off, let's be honest. That's just fact of life.
Oh, yeah. The Friday night in September, 1st of September, New Zealand game.
We'll sort that afterwards.
Yeah, but no, it will rain because we're all going to be there.
Yeah. Second semi-final, as it stands right now, will be Michael Smith against Michael van Gerwen. Now, obviously, we have been told that van Gerwen is injured. He withdrew from that semi-final this evening. After bulling off, he has 5-6 days to get himself ready.
Imagine, by the way, being that good that you've done yourself a complete injury and you can still just hit the ball. Like,
if Van Gerwen is not able to play, that spot would be offered to Nathan Aspinall. It wouldn't move Johnny Clayton's match around. It would just be a direct swap for the next person in the table, defending the fact that Aspinall and Clayton were both ever present at finals night when they played in the Premier League before tonight. So Aspinall has currently lost that record. Should Van Gerwen not be fit enough to play, he would get that accolade back.
Yeah.
Predictions then in the chat room from you guys. Michael Smith, let us know. In fact, let us know both predictions here.
Yeah.
No, Smith versus MVG and Smith versus Aspinall, should that be the case. And then when you predict your finals, you can tell us what you think will happen.
I'm going with the same prediction for both. Michael Smith wins. I think he's playing too well for both of them right now. But I also think in different ways, it's probably a similar result. I think Van Gerwen will make it look more competitive in his overall scoring and his overall play, but still lose the legs. Whereas Nathan will have a run where he's not very good and a run where he's very good. And either way, they end up with the same outcome, and Michael Smith wins 10-5 whoever he plays.
I mean, Nathan Aspinall's scoring recently has been magnificent,
but he does drop off still.
That attribute of being a battler that we keep giving him, I still think at the moment he is better on the outer ring.
Oh yeah, definitely, and that's what I mean. Like, he will have his different, whereas Van Gerwen will sort of dominate legs to win his 5 legs. Nathan will win legs by being more clinical and taking the outer ring. But either way, either of them get 5 legs, and Michael Smith wins this comfortably. And I just think he really, really fancies this.
Fair enough. I think, do you know, I hate agreeing with you, but on this one I do. I just think Michael Smith, for the first half of this Premier League campaign,
he was tired, he was jaded, he struggled, he never got into it, and now he's found it.
I just don't think it was his focus. He was still very much in the habit of completing his media duties, representing the sport as world number one, picking up things here, there, and everywhere. I spoke to people around him saying that he's literally booked every single night of the week for exhibitions if he wants to.
Yeah. Well, that's it. We all forget this all the time, how hard it is to be a major champion in golf, to be a world champion or a major winner in darts, to be Wimbledon champion like Andy Murray, or be the US Open champion like Raducanu, who it takes so much out of you. Like, Rob Cross was the same. It was so hard for him to get used to it all. And you just don't get time to practice. You don't get time to focus. You don't get time to do anything because you're just constantly doing things. And I think it's taken him a while to get used to it, but not that long, really. We're only a few months into the year, and he's already, for the last 6 weeks, basically turned it around and got himself back to nearly as good as he is. Still not 100%. I don't think he's back at his best.
How good a golfer Rory McIlroy would be if he didn't have the press in his face every 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, but that's his own fault, isn't it?
Ish.
Well,
not the reason. You think Rory's been the next big thing since he was 17 years old?
No. Back then, he hadn't.
Career, that was just the example.
But since he decided to be the PGA Tour's spokesman on all matters of anyone trying to do anything different, he's, for the first couple of weeks he did all right, and then since then he's absolutely had a poo in the bed.
Afterwards, middle finger up to everybody. Anyway, predictions. Sorry, my apologies. We do keep getting off on tangents. We have already been going for
Hang on, you've not actually said scores yet.
To give my prediction. Wait, look, let's be honest. Nobody's going to miss this, are they? Weekly like this, you'll get the odd burst of fallout bars, but nobody is going to miss me and you sat here until 5 to midnight chatting nonsense.
We've actually, to be fair though, with it being the last one, we have finally broken the record for how long we've waffled on for.
Yeah, it's not over yet. Shut up and let me predict. I do think Michael Smith wins regardless of the opponent. Look, I think Nathan Aspinall has some incredible battling capabilities. I think the maturity level in Smith is back. He looks as composed as he did when he lifted the World Championship trophy, i.e. between that Grand Slam and the World Championship. He was just a different animal. I think he's talking pretty well. I don't think we're seeing him panicked or flustered on the hockey. There's no petulance in throwing darts away. And I think his B game is good enough now to compete at the very, very top. And I don't think that was perhaps there before because of those other factors. B game, not quite going my way. There's going to be a moment or two where you look at him and go, why have you done that? And I don't think he does that anymore. So even if it doesn't quite go so well, or it goes a little bit scrappy, if it is Aspinall next week or Van Gogh, and I still think he's got enough there over this distance to just produce a spurt or know that he's got the ability to come back. So I'm going to say Michael Smith beats whoever it is 11-6. 10-6.
I've just actually had a little thought. And I know I said that Van Gogh will play through whatever and because he wants to win it. Will he? Because if he knows he's nowhere near 100% and he's in bother, is it better for him to just not play and let Nathan play rather than go up there and take a beating in the semi-final that forever in the history books, regardless of whether everyone knows he's injured or not, he will always be down as getting battered in the semi-final of that year by potentially the eventual winner? Or is it better for him to say, I'm not right, actually, I'm not going to play at all?
I think it depends where the arm is, doesn't it? Because there is also the fact you have to consider that they are playing the second semi-final.
So that's what I mean. What I mean is, if he can, if he can get through it physically, but he's not at his best, what do you do?
Then he'll play. He'll battle. He'll give it a go. Because if it's not his best, but it's still enough to beat Michael Smith, it's worth an extra 60 grand.
It's not though, is it? It's not though, is it? Like, if he's not at his best, you ain't beating Michael Smith.
If Smith has a wobble or if Van Gogh, look, he might not be at his best, but if he produces 5 or 6 legs of top quality and then they trade holds for a while, he's got it in him. We've seen that from him so many times. He don't win as many titles as Van Gogh does by playing the A game all the time.
Well, he can clearly hit the ball still, so maybe he just goes at ball every time.
He still hits treble 20. The problem was the worst thing to happen to him tonight was hitting the winning double to beat Dobie.
Yeah.
Because then he knew he had to go again. That was my prediction for the semi-final. So final, let us know who you had in your final and what you think the scoreline will be. Chat room, the same to you. While Cam's thinking about his scoreline for the final, I'm going to go through your guys' predictions for Smith versus Van Gerwen. Matthew says Smith to beat Asp 10-7. Els says Smith 10-9 to both. So regardless, you think it'll be 10-9. Matthew also says Smith 10-8 MVG. So if it's Van Gerwen's giving him an extra leg. Craig says Smith 10-7 against either. Dan says,
tell you what,
Barrett in the final. That would be a massive outsider given the way things sit at the minute. Bob says 10 final.
Tell you what though,
11.
What we've seen a lot here from me, you, and the chat is that everybody thinks that regardless of who Smith plays, he wins by the same score. You went 10-6, well 11-6 because you had a wobble, but 10-6. I went 10-5. There's been 10-8 whoever he plays, 10-9 whoever he plays, and 10-7 whoever he plays. So everybody thinks Smith wins by the same margin, no matter who he plays between Asp and MBT, which surprises me. I
think the potential in the injury negates the difference in ability and experience between Van Gogh and Aspinall.
Yeah, possibly.
That's where I've gone with it. Final predictions then. Cam, as you go, or give us yours in a second. Craig says Smith 11-8 final win. HJV says Price 11-7. Matthew says Price 11-7. Will MVG be able to play in America a week after the night 17? Not sure about that one either. Let's not forget he's got World Series.
Like, even if he plays in finals night, will he then be able to play again is a question as well.
It depends how much he wants to play in that World Cup, doesn't it? Now that it's on pairs as well, that might be a good one for him to miss. Send Danny Knopfler and Dirk Van Dijvenbode into bat as they have done before when he had his wrist surgery a couple of years ago. HJV says MVG can overtake Taylor if he wins. Now they're both on 6. That's interesting to know. He's not going to pass up an opportunity if he can. Craig says 11-7. Sorry. Changes mind on the scoreline. LJ says Smith 11, Price 9. Cameron, last from you. What is your score prediction for the final next week?
I can't see past Michael Smith. I think we see them both play well, but we see drop off again from Gezi slightly from the first round. And if you do that, you're Michael Smith. Even if it's only 3-4 points from 104 to 100, I think you get beat these days. And I think that Smith wins it. It will go close. 11-9. I'm giving Smith the win.
Interesting. I'm going to agree with you again. I think Gerwyn Price has produced a level that's been absolutely sensational recently. But the consistency...
In the first round.
Yeah, the consistency pokes towards Michael Smith at the moment. He is the reigning Grand Slam champion, the reigning world champion, and world number 1.
And I do think this is where it gets to Gezi a little bit. I don't think the semi-final will. I think he'll play well. But actually, the chance to win it in the final is maybe where he wobbles a little.
Yeah. And as much as changing the shirts has worked.
Well, he can't do that. What's he going to change it to for the O2? Like,
against an English world champion?
Or is he just going to have a big O2 logo on it? I don't know. That's like
certainly won't be a red rose, will it?
Yeah.
Certainly will not be a red rose or St George or whatever. Let's put it that way.
I think he almost has to go the other way for this. Like, just one massive daffodil, or like
yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, or like the shirts that the Welsh rugby fans wear at Cardiff, like when they're playing, where it says like, I live in England, but I'm still Welsh. So just like, I play darts in England, but I'm still Welsh, or something like that on his shirt.
I'm not sure we'll be allowed to write that on his shirt, but you never know. Gerwyn Price is full of surprises. As I said, folks, that is the end of the Fallout Bar for this year's Premier League. We will be back for the match play next up. We won't be here for the World Cup of Darts. There's only a couple of days of tournament, and that gives us our content for Monday night for the
That's the best tournament of the year.
Shut up. Yeah, it is. That's why we're saving it for Monday's
I love the World Cup of Darts. We had this little quiz thing when we first got invited into the group and everything started. And I said it then, and I stand by it now. The World Cup of Darts is my favourite tournament of the year. It's fun.
Yeah.
I want to see Kim Huybrechts and Dimi Vandenberg just dancing and laughing.
Venom Simeonidis from Greece for only hitting 62.
No, I just want to see them two in their interviews afterwards. Just Kim trying to do Dimi's dance moves and just laughing and having a great time.
Yeah, look, we'll talk World Cup when we get closer to the World Cup, but that is us done for now. As ever, the Motor Super Series is live if you wish to go and head out and check Group B action, including Robert Thornton and Chaz Barstow. Quick reminder that tomorrow's action in Group C, Andy Jenkins will be replacing an injured Sven Verdonk. I can't remember who has had to withdraw now, but Andy Jenkins will be taking that spot tomorrow due to an injury in game number 13 earlier today. Myself and Phil will be in Leicester tomorrow night, hoping to bring you guys some more interview content from the players that will be at the Armageddon exhibition at the Morningside Arena, and then we will head to finals night next week. Pro Tour live streams return this weekend on Saturday and Sunday, live from 1 p.m. as ever due to the new
I will not be on there because I will be at Blast Off at the cricket again down there.
Live Lounge will return on Monday night, and next Thursday at the O2, Phil Bars will be there once again. Obviously, for the last few weeks, we have brought you 2 nightly interviews. That will still be happening at the O2. We will have the winner for you guys. And we have also been promised a sit down with Matt Porter. So if you've got any pressing questions you would like to know, join us on Saturday or Sunday during the stream. Drop them in the chat room, and we will put them to Matt for you guys. Massive thank you to everybody that is still with us at 5 past midnight here in the UK, especially to those of you in Europe that are slightly further ahead of us, and to you guys in
so much respect
America,
for people that are still listening to us at this point.
Behind. As Cam said, him and Jarlif are doing a T20 cricket podcast for the UK summer. So if you are a fan of that, head over to @T20 Blast Pod for more information. Their preview show is out now. I may or may not be joining them at the very, very end to take all the glory after finals day.
Yeah.
And I will be very, very hungover.
I mean, you won't be taking any glory because there's no chance not to winning anything because the Lankies are absolutely setting sail to piss the lot from Old Trafford.
Hales was teeing off again earlier today, but we'll leave that for another day. That's it. We've got to go now.
Boundary on the leg side,
everybody that has joined us, especially if you've managed to put up with Cam rambling on for this long. I really do appreciate it. But I appreciate myself as well for joining me after those couple of weeks where I had to run.
What we're actually going to have to do at some point is someone that's good at stats in the chat actually break down the percentage of who scores longest, because I guarantee it's you, not me.
I'm hosting, and then I give you answer this in one sentence, and it takes you 10 minutes. Right, we are going. Thanks for watching, guys. Quick advert, and then it will be the closing titles. I will see most of you on Saturday if you're dropping in for the Pro Tour streams. If not, Monday night for the live lounge. Myself, Phil, Lee, and a guest, but I can't remember who, but we've definitely already worked it out. Speak to you all later. Bye.